Welcome to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Alston, and it is my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. I am so excited again to be here with another amazing and empowering speaker. So please be sure to listen to his podcast and everyone else's podcast on all the pages that are posted. There is lots of really good information that you need to take advantage of, so make sure you visit each and every page. Just in case you didn't know, the purpose of the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast is to network not only our small businesses, but also to share pertinent information to career seekers who may be thinking about entering this line of work. I would also like to take a moment to thank our corporate partners, a family of authors, Butler Armstead Consulting Solutions, Human Resource Learning Center, J&F Enterprises, and Women Offering Wealth, along with our other business partners who is helping to make this event a success. Well, before I introduce our next speaker, I would like to talk just a minute about teaching our young people about the value of money and how they can leverage their personal and professional career. I know for myself, with my sons, I literally sat them down and actually explained to them about money, but sometimes it's better to hear it from someone who is the same age and peer that they are, and that's who I have on this podcast today. I have a young man who is out there just teaching the young people about how to promote and use their money wisely, and I really want to applaud him from that. So with that, I want to introduce Will Owens to the podcast. He is a 26-year-old millennial and the founder of his organization called Brotherhood and Wow Mentoring LLC. Before starting his business, he actually has an industrial engineering degree from the University of Pittsburgh. He considers himself a great networker and an expert in financial literacy. And he's also known as the Millennial Money Mentor. I had to say that slow because I don't want to be, it's a tongue twister if I try to say that fast. Um, he also has an insurance and investment license, and he uses these skills to educate others and youth about how to get money and to gain personal wealth. After turning down an awesome opportunity to play professional basketball in Europe and China, he chose to use his gift to climb the corporate ladder and really focus his attention on starting Wow Mentoring and doing some other great stuff. So, Will, I want to welcome you to the podcast because I want to hear more about your take on teaching youth about money.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the warm welcome. And yes, I do have a ton of information to share. Of course, it's not all going to be on the podcast, and that's why I'm actually setting up my financial literacy program. Anybody that wants to go to the website to actually receive access to it once it is launched, they can go to WOWmentoringllc.com, wowmentoringllc.com. And that way they'll be notified when the program is launched. But I have ton of information to share, and I'm really big on teaching the youth about money.
Okay, well, give us an example of some of this information you want to share because there's a lot of people out here that I know that have kids that could benefit from this podcast, particularly about money. So if you can kind of run down, maybe give us a little smidgen on some of the key areas that you like to focus on with that.
Right. I got you. So the key areas that I would love to focus on, and I do this in an analogy of a house. It's called a financial house. And if you build your house up with a great foundation and then build on top of that, you'll never be broke. If you miss any room, you will be broke. And there's only 9 rooms in this house, and it has a roof. On the first floor, that foundation, children need to know that, and parents need to know that they have to have an emergency savings set aside. And I'm gonna need your help on finish this. All right, it's not if an emergency happens, but when.
Exactly.
When. Emergencies are always going to happen. So a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck because they're just getting by. And then really it's not even paycheck to paycheck. It could be direct deposit to direct deposit. You got to be a manager of your money. You got to understand what's coming in and what's going out. I know a lot of people, especially there's the kids, right? They have the clothes, they have the shoes, they're they can participate in all the after school activities and things like that, but they don't understand what their parent has to go through to make sure that all that money is there and provided to them. So what I tell parents is, don't put your kids on I guess an allowance. Give them commissions for the work that they do. And when you're teaching them, they earn, they make as they earn. Guess what? You're getting them prepared for the real world. If you just give, they don't appreciate. So that's
Yeah, so okay, so when you say give a commission, are you saying if they just do, I mean, what's the difference between, the allowance? Because a lot of times parents they tie an allowance with whatever task that they're doing, like clean the room or clean the house or clean the bathroom, take out the trash. So what's the difference in a child's mind that would click for them that this is an ongoing thing? Because I know that my boys didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it even if I paid them.
right, right. And so that's exactly what I'm talking about. So it goes, if you want these shoes, like say a kid wants some new Nikes or something. If you want these shoes, here's how you get it. You got to make up your bed these days. This is worth this amount of money. Washing the dishes is this amount of money. Whatever, vacuuming the floor, cutting the grass, raking the leaves is this amount of money. And this is how you get those shoes. And if you don't do those things, guess what? You can't get those shoes. And once the kid buys interest into what they're doing, yes, and you said your kids didn't want to, but guess what? If you start taking away the things that they say they want, and they can't get those things, I bet you 100% they will actually start taking towards those chores and wanting to be rewarded for that.
Okay. So, Will, what made you go into this line of work in terms of, teaching kids about the value of money? What was it that just kind of clicked in your brain and said, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, and so what made me go, and of course I affect the children because I wanted to uh get them on the early start, get them on the early start of understanding what it is before they got into debt with school debt and things like that. But it started off with me talking to parents, and all parents. First, I started with mine. What happened with Wow Mentoring and how this all started is because I wrote a life insurance policy on my mother. 3 days later, found out that she told me that after the physical and everything, she got checked out. She had stage 4 liver cancer and only 9 months to live. And my mother was 45 years old, never drank, never smoked, like was healthy and stuff. And when it was shocking. And while I was going through her like financial portfolio and stuff, I realized there was a lot of key things that were set up, and I set them up prior to, but it was just like, man, this is why this is so important.
Wow.
And yeah, wow, right? That's where wow
Yeah,
came from.
wow. First of all, I'm so sorry about your mom, your loss. Let me just put that out there because I can't even imagine if, one of my family members just came home one day and say, "Okay, I only have 9 more months to live,"
Mm,
and that just speaks volume because you just never know, and that's why I teach, preparation. You
right.
never know when things like that happen to you or around people who you know. And it's a good thing that you did set that up because, I mean, if you hadn't, there would be other repercussions involved, right?
There are tons of repercussions involved,
Mhm.
and it's so crazy. And I want the kids to be involved in this because I'm very spiritual Christian faith, and I went through my Book of Job moment at that time when my mother, like I had lost my job due to being forced resigned for moving up too fast. I was buying a house in Georgia, and my neighbors not paying their bills prevented me from getting a house because they told me that the mortgage lender told me that the neighborhood was gonna go under in a few years. So they were like, "This is a bad investment on our part. We're not allowing you to move in." And I was like, "Man, I never knew any of this, and this is all financial." And seeing how my mom, the reason why she bought into life insurance and things like that was because she had the money. Now, this goes to the parents right now. You got to think, if you don't have that stuff set up for your children, or for yourself, if your income disappears, can your children handle your home payment? Can your family members afford to allow another mouth to come into their house and start eating and clothing and all that stuff? If something happens to the income that you bring in, who covers that cost? A lot of parents don't like to let their children be involved with what's coming in and what's going out and how much they make and how much the house costs and things like that. But it's so imperative for the children to be involved in those conversations. And yes, we do understand. Don't let anybody tell you kids are too young to learn anything. We pick up stuff. We pick up what you teach. If you're not teaching, we won't pick it up, but we'll learn it from some outside source.
So, what do you say to parents who actually and really just cannot afford to pick up life insurance?
And so they say they can't afford to pick up the life insurance, and you got to really look at your budget and see what it is that you're valuing and spending your money on, because at the end of the day, as I told you before, we're building that house, the emergency fund, life insurance, and then legal protection, that's at the bottom, because with the legal protection comes your will. If you don't have that foundation set, you will always be broke. You have to set aside, you have to sacrifice something. Sometimes the kids can't get school codes because you got to use that money for life insurance or whatever. And it's not expensive. You can get a policy for like $25 a month. And if you tell me you can't afford $25 a month, but you have a job, that's a problem, because you need something to protect your family.
Okay. So, what would you say will be some of the things that a parent and child can do together to save money for whatever reason, whether it be a life insurance policy or maybe just saving it up for their school or anything? I mean, what was some of the piece of advice you would give to someone?
Right. And so you would want to sit the child down with you and look at the overall cost of whatever it may be. It could be a summer camp. Sit the kid down and let them know, hey, this is how much I earn. This is how long I have to work. This is what I have to do. And I need you to understand that while I'm cutting out some of your activities, the extracurricular, like going to the movies or whatever, it's all for the benefit of you so that you can have fun during the summer. Show the kids that there is a beneficial interest in the money game as well. I did it to my little brothers for a case in point and perfect example. I looked at both of my brothers after my mom died, and I sat them down. We had food together, and I looked and I said, "Guys, I'm looking at your shoes right now." And they said, "Yeah." And I said, "You guys both have Jordans on." And I asked them, I said, "How much do those Jordans cost?" They say, one was like 200, the other one was like 250. And I said, you know, it's crazy, but I would rather have that time back with mommy. And they said, what do you mean? I said, looking at how many hours she had to work to pay for those shoes because she was the one who's bought those shoes for you, I would rather have that time back. And they're like, man. And so we take time for granted. Sometimes we gotta relate dollars and money to people. There's sacrifices that have to be made. Money just doesn't come out of nowhere. So there has to be that beneficial interest in both parties. And when they saw it in a different light, like, yeah, we would want our time back. The shoes aren't worth our mother not being gone. That's time we could have actually been spending with her. They saw it in a whole new light, and they gained a new attitude towards money as well.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so basically what you're saying is that you use, different instances of situations to get them to see the value of the money.
That's right.
And then when they see the value of the money, then they have a better appreciation for it. And that's a really good way of, getting kids or even young adults to kind of look at their money situation. A lot of times we wait until those unexpected things happen, and then we're scrambling around trying to figure out what we're going to do, where we're going to get the funds from, and seeing who's in our resources that we can use. But basically what you're saying, along with some of the other podcast members are saying, is that you have to prepare early for these things. And if
That's
you
right.
have the money and you can afford to do it, you have to reevaluate your priorities to make sure
Priorities.
that you are covered. And a lot of minorities, and it's particularly in the African American community, we are not prepared for these things. We are literally behind the gate, making sure that we have adequate health insurance, adequate life insurance, making sure that we have adequate with credit so that we can afford the things we can afford, and we have to do a better job of changing our mindset and say this is actually more important than shoes or going out and get those stilettos that you saw on Facebook or something like that.
Right,
Um,
right. And it goes to the priorities, like you
mhm,
said. You
mhm.
are 100% right.
Right. So tell us a little bit more about some of the other activities that you do with your organization in terms of empowering and teaching financial literacy.
And so my whole thing is I teach people how to one budget. You gotta we make you can make fun out of budgeting. And a lot of people would say, wow, that's there's no way. But yeah, it gets fun when you could look at how many things you buy and what you do value, as we just talked about. And when you're looking at that money, reassigning it, learning how to reassign it to things that you, if you invest it or wherever it grows, you'll just have fun with it. Put it like that. Um, I teach people how to budget. I teach them how to have opportunities and like get jobs and things like that. Like there's so many ways that money affects you. It's crazy. But all in all, the program that I'm launching is going to be a fun activity and exercises for people to just put money in a different perspective.
So one of the things we talked about when we first met at the other event was that you were talking about millennials and money and how they view money. So tell me again what your perspective, of people who are born in your generation as opposed to the generation, like say myself, because everybody has a different value of money, and I think it's important for people who are listening to this podcast that conversation was very relevant, of,
Right.
of the different generations and how they actually viewed money.
Right, 100%. And so the millennials, we don't value money. We don't value money. What happens is most of the time we go back to live with our parents. It's rare that we actually step out on our own. We value more of experiences rather than money. So we just we'll spend it freely as quickly as it comes in. And I've noticed that with a lot of people, we really care for ownership don't really care for ownership. And yeah, when millennials will earn as we go. We'll earn as we go. That's just what it is. So for any of the Gen X or baby boomers, make sure you understand about millennials.
Well,
The
why do
value,
you think that is? I mean, is it because I don't know. I mean, why do you think that you guys are so carefree when it comes to money?
because our parents are there.
Yeah, we are here. We're definitely sure. So it's just that freedom. You think
Yeah,
that we kind of give you too much freedom to have what you want and not really, the responsibility is not there or not being taught?
that's 100. Like, there's no buy-in. There's no buy-in in the sense of accountability. Like, if I mean, think about it. If somebody just handed you some shoes that were $500 or whatever it may be, are you gonna value them as if you put the hard work and effort in? I mean, I would personally, but a lot of people wouldn't.
They probably wouldn't. Yeah, if I have to kind of think back in my own generation, there was a lot of conversation about the value of money and what that actually means to a person. And in my opinion, money is important, but it's not that important. I use it to, take care of myself, but it's not, one of those things that's the greatest thing in since butter bread. But my kids, however, feel the same way you feel. I mean, they get money, they're ready to run outside and spend it like in any second, But
Water.
I tell them, I said, stop spending your money on all this frivolous stuff, and they're like, oh, it's here, I'm gonna spend it. It's good. I know I'm
Yeah,
gonna get some more.
yeah.
But I think now that they are older and soon to be adults, they are really seeing the value of money as they watch me be an example. And what I had to do was I had to change my mindset on how I spent money because honestly, I didn't realize that they were watching the way I
Hmm.
spend. Okay, so
Hmm.
they're watching the way I'm spending, but they also didn't understand why I spend the way I spend. So, just like you said earlier in the conversation, one of the things I've always been able to do is sit with them and explain to them about money and actually show them my paycheck and say, this is how much I earn, this is how much taxes are taken out, this is,
Yeah.
I'll do all those things so that they can understand. But now that they're actually older and they're working for the money, they have a better appreciation because now they're
Yep.
coming back with me saying, "Well, I have a plan. I have a plan that I'm going to get this in 3 months,"
Yep.
which which to me shows that it's sort of working. But they still like if I give them $20, they're still going to go out there and spend it like in a hot second, right?
Right, because anytime a gift is given and they didn't earn it, of course they're just not gonna value it. They're not gonna appreciate it. But for anything, my mom did that for me when I was 12 years old, and I put this in my book. It can happen to you. Um, my mom actually, I was saving up all my money for my birthdays, and I was putting it into a bank account. My mom helped me, and I told her I wanted a new pair of Jordans. She took me to the mall, tried them out, boom, 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 about to go get them and moving up to the cash register. And I looked at my mother and I was like, oh, it's 175, not a bad price. She said, you're right, it is not a bad price. And I said, okay, so go ahead and pay for them. And then she looked at me and was like, I know how much money you have in your account. You pay for them. And I was like, huh? What do you mean? I pay for them. No, you pay for them. And she was like, no, you want them, you buy them. And that changed my whole perception of how, like, what it's really worth. What is it really worth? And as I saw that they were 175, and if it had to come out of my own money, guess what? I didn't value it that much to where I was
Right.
gonna go buy it. And
Wow.
powerful, powerful lesson. And it taught me a lesson from then on. Be smart with your money and don't buy things you don't value.
Exactly. And we need to do that in business as well, as a business owner. And I just kind of want to add this point that we really have to be careful of what we actually spend our money on. And I think there's a podcast that we have where another speaker is talking about business credit and funding. If we're not mastering our money properly as a business owner, we're going to be doing exactly what Will is saying. We're not going to value our services, we're not going to value the products that we're providing, and you're definitely not going to be valued as a fellow business owner if you're not mastering what you're supposed to be providing. So, with that, I kind of want to turn the conversation a little bit about the brotherhood. So, tell us about the brotherhood. How did you come up with that, and what is that all about?
The brotherhood stands for brothers respecting open thought, helping every man realize his own original dream. And I started that at the University of Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's the brotherhood is an acronym. It is an acronym,
Mm,
and we founded that in 2012. I am the main founder, but I did bring my friends along who are also fellow engineers. We're all different disciplines of engineering, and we had an advisor. What happened was our advisor was new. We didn't really know him, and he talked to us a kind of in a disrespectful but manly tone, and we didn't appreciate that. But we had to understand what his dream was, and when we understood what his dream was, it then turned out, hey, we had the same dream and needed to align with each other. And we gave him a chance. And out of that, like, we realized that so many of our engineering brothers of all different nationalities, whites included, needed an outlet for us to be able to talk our problems out. You could be in college, you could be in school, and only get school help. But who's going to talk to you about the times when you can't afford to go to college? Who's going to talk to you about your parent being sick, or another family member being sick, or somebody dying, or what's going on in the world with people dying and things like that? Like, who's going to talk to you about all the other social issues? And so we created that environment to where people do have an outlet, and we're going out to impact the rest of the community to let them know that, hey, there are people who do like to have these conversations and want to assist.
So let me ask you a question. Is this limited to people in the engineering industry, or is this just anyone who just need an outlet because they're just having some of those problems you mentioned?
Yeah, so for the brotherhood, it is limited to just the engineering field, and it is just for University of Pittsburgh, because we do get funding from the school to help us. But that's where Wow came off of a extension of the brotherhood, and Wow includes all the things that it's the extension of brotherhood. That's I took that, I run it, and it's the extension of brotherhood.
Awesome. So how did you get into engineering? What was that thing that said, "Hey, I want to be an engineer"?
Money, money.
Okay, we're back to money.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So what was about, I mean, is it just because you wanted to make a lot of money and you felt that that was the best career choice to choose, or do you like what you do in engineering?
Yeah, and so that's an amazing question, man. So what happened was I during 11th grade I was in calculus, and I asked my teacher. I said, "Hey, I'm trying to decide what to do when I get to college." And I said, "What field makes the most money?" And she said, "Engineering and doctors." And I was like, "Okay, cool." She was like, "Chemical engineers in particular." So I was like, "All right, I guess that's what I'm gonna be." And I went into chemical engineering, realized I hated chemistry. Um, and then throughout my whole time of engineering, it was a true struggle. It was a true struggle. It made me hate school. But then I actually worked, did a program, and it made me realize I wasn't meant to be an engineer. I turned down my basketball scholarships and my basketball contracts to play pro. And what I was meant to do was be a mentor. What I was meant to be was like not a salesman, but in a businessman. And so I went through 5 years of misery to become an engineer, only to switch it up and have nothing to do with engineering, except for I
Wow.
engineer people's lives now.
Wow. And that's really key. I think I'm still stuck on the fact that you gave up a pro basketball career to be a mentor.
Yeah.
And that speaks volume because that goes back to what five or six podcast interviewers said. You have to follow your passion. And
Hmm.
you can go to college and you can get all this information and theory and degrees and stuff, but are you following your passion? Are you following what your purpose is? And obviously, Will, you said, whatever, I'm just going to go ahead on and do mentoring because that's what my purpose is. And I think you've done a wonderful job at helping young people understand money, trying to reach out to parents. And I'm encouraging all the parents out here to reach out to Will and connect with him and find out what is he doing that's going to help give information to your child about managing money. So as a small business owner, Will, what do you need that can help Wow mentoring or the brotherhood?
Yeah, and of course, donations are always welcome. Donations are always welcome, but I need other participants, people who want to be helped, people who want to serve as testimonies that what I'm doing really does work, and people that really want to take control of their future, their financial future, their purpose future. I'm leading a group of 25 people through a purpose-driven life journey, and every night at 9 o'clock, and we will continue on even for the next 160 days reading through different books. But every night we get on at 9 o'clock Eastern time, and we share testimonies and read a book together. And I'm the leader of that, and it's so crazy to see that people are really having true testimonies of transformation on these calls that I'm leading, and I'm like, man, and they're like, you thank you so much for actually helping us. So I'm looking for, and where I need help is people who want to help themselves.
Awesome, awesome. So, with that, I would like to thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing all your information about the brotherhood and about your mentoring, and definitely making sure that we keep in mind that we have to change our mindset about money.
Yeah, yes, we do. Like
Absolutely.
100.
So I want to also encourage everybody who's listening to this podcast to please reach out to Will Owens. He has wonderful information. His contact information is below, so don't be afraid to network with him. Also, be sure to reach reach out to all the other speakers and visit each and every page and listen to their podcast, because you never know what information could be helpful to you. And so with that, thank you, Will, for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much. And if anybody says wow, please think of Will Owens and Wow Mentoring.
Awesome.